Africa Mambo, Africa Habari, Africa Hello. It's the daughter of Africa here with the latest updates from Burkina Faso. The president of Africa, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has banned homosexuality here in Burkina Faso, Africa. Has outlawed the LGBTQ activities here in Burkina Faso. If you are seen in the same gender marriage, in the same gender relationship, meaning men and men together, women and women together in relationships, you will be sentenced up to 5 years in prison. My brothers and sisters, this law is very serious. The captain does not want the influence of the Western culture here in Burkina Faso. That's the latest updates with the daughter of Africa, Mwana, Africa, Burkina Faso, Captain President Ibrahim Traoré.
What is good, y'all? Welcome back to Peapod Cove Life. And listen, this is a story about Burkina Faso. And this is a very touchy subject. I'm not gonna say it's not. A lot of these African countries, you know, I'm from the West Indies. It's the same thing in the West Indies. A lot of these countries, they push the same thing. So I'm here today to bring y'all some information. A lot of people probably don't even know where Burkina Faso is in Africa. People wonder where it came from, you know, and I'm going to break a little bit of that down for y'all today. So hopefully I can understand a little better, because all of a sudden more lights getting shined on them, because this is going to be what everybody sees as the African state or African country that's going to help unite all of our brothers and sisters in Africa and get them to come together to get the diaspora the way it should always have been, instead of being abused and taken advantage of. A lot of these countries are now coming together and they're trying to ban all the Western activities, I should say. But y'all understand what I'm saying. I appreciate y'all rocking with me here on the channel, and let's get it.
Burkina Faso criminalized homosexuality, punishable with fines or up to 2 to 5 years in prison, according to Al Jazeera. And it reminded me of a conversation that I was having when I was in Senegal with a woman who was talking about how she feels like the gay community in the West, in the United States and in Western countries, they don't need to be doing so much when it comes to pride. She was like, why are they parading in the streets? Like, they can be gay, but basically they should keep that to themselves. And when I read this article today about Burkina Faso criminalizing homosexuality, they voted unanimously to criminalize. It just made me think to myself about that conversation and the fact that the reason that gay people in the West do that is because they can, right? Because all over the world, gay people are living in fear of violence and potential imprisonment in some countries. Free my people from the shackles of homophobia.
Nobody's asking when it comes to Burkina Faso and passing anti-homosexuality laws is the why. Why do nations that are literally on the cusp of revolution, they've already been experiencing it, why would they waste time in their pursuit of becoming a better country and doing something that will ostracize them from most of the Western world and the people who are within it that are supporting them? And I think it is a false belief that homosexuality and like sexual fluidity is somehow colonial indoctrination, right? Because that's what these people are trying to do. They're trying to get rid of everything and anything that is a remnant of the Western world within their countries. and they have the false belief that colonialization is what brought homosexuality to Africa. But if you study a lot of African cultures and indigenous cultures in general, you would know that our sexuality, our gender, all those like constructs were way more fluid prior to colonialization. I feel like in a lot of like Black cultures, African cultures, they see the a Western homosexuality bid as a way to emasculate specifically Black men. It's like when straight women joke, who's gonna be the men? Who's gonna be the men? That is what these nations are literally thinking when they do things like that. I also do think, of course, it's fear, homophobia, like all these weird feelings around allowing people to be who they are and be sexually expressive. Like, there's only so much certain societies will do before they start feeling like it's becoming a free-for-all or becoming chaotic. I'm not justifying what Burkina Faso did, by the way. I'm just trying to understand why the fuck they would do something that would kind of put them in this position where now they're getting criticism, where before they were getting some support or some notoriety of being like a Marxist civilization that might actually be working. And the fact that they passed this new bill doesn't take away from the fact that they did a lot of great things before this, but it does change the perception of a lot of especially Western people about what this country actually embodies. What I don't like is that when we do think pieces about these kinds of things, we just kind of jump past the why and jump to the what. We're just like, oh my goodness, how dare they? Like, they must be stupid. But in my mind, I'm just like, but why? What was the point of this? Why, when you have all these other things to be worrying about in your country, do you feel the need to stop? I literally, for a second, I was like, maybe that's not real. Maybe like I had to go and dig and find something that specifically cited the person who spoke on behalf of Ibrahim Traoré when it came to passing this bill in the first place. Because y'all forget, like, people lie. Institutions lie. Governments lie. They want to frame things in a way to make it so anything that might be gaining popularity can be, humbled. But in this case, from what I have researched, it does seem to be accurate. I feel like this is a conversation that needs to be had with the rest of the African community, other indigenous like cultures. What is it and what is the obsession with feeling like separating from Western institutions also means separating from sexual fluidity and like equality in certain aspects? That's just what I need to understand before I can say anything further.
I definitely like the conversation. I like the fact that she is not blaming anyone. She's not coming up, because you got to at least look at it and think about it, because they're doing it for a reason, right? Now, it's a 2 to 5 year prison sentence. I guess if being caught, I don't know what the story is like over there. It's not a good situation to be in but I think most of them do it because, just like the last lady said, the parades and the things like that some people just aren't comfortable with. We all remember in a time where your sexuality, whether you were straight, whether you were gay, whether you were whatever you were, stayed behind closed doors. And a lot of people feel like allowing a lot of that stuff to go on is what brings it out to be more of a celebration, where some people aren't happy with it. So they're rather, instead of parading it around, they criminalize it. So we don't want to talk about it. That's pretty much what I think it is. And, when it comes to the West dealing with Africa, we could see even like Traoré, he's dealing with the US, he's dealing with France, and a lot of these countries is what kept these African states down. So I can't be upset with them for trying to keep the West out of their business, because they're the ones that's kept them in poverty all these years, that kept them basically enslaved all these years.
About Burkina Faso moving to explicitly ban homosexuality, but not just ban homosexuality in Burkina Faso, but also put prison time for being queer. And rightfully so. I feel like this conversation has turned into a discussion on leftist politics and the scapegoating of marginalized groups. But one thing I do want to address in this conversation that I feel like more people should be willing to be forthcoming about is y'all hate Khalil and you view Khalil as the figurehead of leftist politics on this app. And therefore, anything that Khalil says, you attribute to leftism and what everybody who holds leftist politics believes. And I wish more of you would say, I don't fucking like Khalil. And anytime he speaks, if he says something, now all of you leftists gotta get it because I don't like him. I wish we would be more honest about that. But let's actually dive into this conversation for real. This coming off of the conversation about China and its impacts in the African continent also is fueling this dialogue and fueling this conversation. At the end of the day, there is a number of African countries that may hold anti-imperialist identities, but still hold on to imperialist identities at the same time. The criminalizing of being queer in a nation is inherently imperialist. And I also feel like we are not recognizing the religious aspects of the entire African continent. Most of the African continent was colonized in some shape or form using either Islam or Christianity. That is not to say that everybody who practices Christianity or Islam is homophobic or queerphobic, but the weaponization of these religions in the colonization of these countries has led to this continued hate towards queer people. And that is not a good thing, and I am not trying to use this as a way to justify this, because at the end of the day, if you are truly, really and truly fighting for anti-imperialism, you believe that all people have a right to exist. Like when I think about the most marginalized people in this world, queer people, people who are disabled, and sex workers, which often have a lot of overlap across these categories, these people are demonized around the world, even though these are just people existing, living their normal lives, being true to who they are and what the circumstances in which they are under. And I also believe the reason why you see a lot of leftists hesitant to explicitly come out and go after Burkina Faso is the reality of knowing as leftists that the Western project, like the existence of the Western project, exists to demonize anything that seeks to upend it. What is happening in Burkina Faso is upending the control of Western rule. There are, again, aspects of it very clearly, as we are seeing with the criminalization of homosexuality, that are still working hand in hand in it. But overwhelmingly, telling the West to go fuck itself, literally telling the West that we are not going to take your bullshit, we are going to stand on our nation being built under the conditions in which we want it to be built that doesn't involve you, is a very dangerous thing to the West. And people's hesitancy to combat that or go after that as leftists has to do with the fact that the West seeks to dismantle these projects. The West actively seeks to make sure that these things never take root. And I think the reality here is we need to both be supporting and pressuring Burkina Faso to actually be about what it states it is about. Queer Africans around the globe are seeing this situation for exactly what it is. Whether or not we are first, second gen, third gen, just recently moved to a Western country, or actively live in African nations, we recognize this for what it is. The control in which colonialization has had on African people is one that is very difficult to break apart. It is one that has existed generationally and has genuine impacts on generations.
I don't mind speaking on Burkina, but it's only under one condition, Burkina Bay. If I get it wrong, please correct me with love. I can't speak for all Black Americans. But what I can say is, we stand with Burkina, and the mainstream media is silent. They don't want us informed. They want us distracted, blind, and divided to what real liberation looks like. I don't care nothing about no Met Gala. So Captain Ibrahim Traoré is the youngest head of state in the world. And at just 37, he didn't step into power to play it safe. Baby, he came to flip the script.
Either we accept to fight or we remain slaves forever. Continue to defend your lands. It is your wealth that interests these people. It's our gold, it's our minerals that interest them. Otherwise, why come and drive out entire villages to seize our lands?
This man survived 19 assassination attempts. If standing on business was a president, it'll be Ibrahim.
Burkina Faso's president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has issued a powerful statement, thanking the world for its solidarity. Massive rallies swept across Africa and the diaspora on April 30th. thousands marched in unity against imperialism and neo-colonialism. In his official post, Traoré said, and I quote, "I would like to express my gratitude to all peace-loving, freedom-loving patriots and Pan-Africanists who rallied around the world." He continued, "To support our commitment and our vision for a new Burkina Faso and a new Africa, free from imperialism and neo-colonialism." April 30th wasn't just a protest, it was a declaration that Africa is no longer waiting, begging or compromising. Africa is rising. "We will never bend our backs in the face of adversity," Traoré said. "We will stand firm until our peoples are truly emancipated."
He said, y'all not about to rob us of gold in exchange for rusty electronics and used clothes. Nope. Not on his watch. Somehow the media wants to...
It's funny because we fell for that trick before, you know, and I'm as a Black person, I am happy to see the unity going on in Africa. And we've been dreaming about this as Black people for years. And I'm so happy that Mr. Traoré, Ibrahim, is basically uniting Africa. And I love to see this.
Wants to paint him as unfit. Maybe he was unfit when he banned child marriage or made childbirth free and education free. Oh no, maybe he was unfit because he built new hospitals, trained nurses, and paid off the country's debt. Oh no. I think he was unfit because he kicked the French military out. The U.S. never mind her own business. We have a history of meddling in African affairs. And why?
And that's another thing y'all got to look at too, y'all. The U.S. and France were the ones that had that country down, that was sucking all the minerals and all the stuff out of there. So let's be clear. Let's be clear on that.
Do people assume that the U.S. is involved? Let's take a trip down memory lane. Patrice Lumumba wasn't just assassinated. He was strategically eliminated because he dared to say that the Congo was for the Congolese. So when the U.S. saw him aligning with the Soviets, guess what they did? The CIA called for his removal. And guess who did the dirty work? Belgium. He was beaten, sodomized, and executed. Then his body was dissolved in acid. Matter of fact, the U.S. backed rebels in Angola and Mozambique, which prolonged civil wars. Let's not forget Gaddafi, who was bombed after he pushed for African currency to be backed by gold. And today, there are over 29 U.S. military outposts on African soil. AFRICOM, don't you sleep? This is not just conspiracy, it's consistency, because every time Africa tries to own her future, it's either the U.S., French, Chinese, or somebody from the West trying to call it instability. But we see you, Burkina. Even though we're not in the streets of Ouagadougou, we stand with you. May God cover Ibrahim as you continue to fight for your people.
We will fight and we will reclaim our lands, our wealth. It belongs to us. It's for us. It will benefit us and our children.
The world may sleep, but Black America is wide awake.
Hey, I'm loving this. I'm loving the unity that's going on around the world, you know, in Burkina Faso. And I got a little history coming up for y'all. I know it may be a different way of bringing it to y'all, but hey, people are out there interested in Burkina, and let's get a little education on it. I wanted to say, don't kill the messenger. Let's just get the message.
Let's talk about Burkina Faso. Oh, Faso. Shut up. Burkina Faso is roughly the size of Colorado, a little bit bigger, okay? If you were looking at Africa, look, it's around here. I know it's inverted. Okay, if Africa looks like kind of a backwards P, it's in this part. So, she used to be called Upper Volta.
I'm pretty sure y'all saw that.
Colonial ass name. Until the 80s, when a man named Thomas Sankara became the leader of the nation. He did things that, in my opinion, Ibrahim Traoré, who everybody's talking about, Ibrahim Traoré is very much part 2 of Sankara, in my opinion. Because it's the whole premise of like, okay, we need Europe's help. We don't need America's. We got it. We are resource rich. Because all of y'all's help comes with you exploiting us. So here are some things that Thomas Sankara, he He was the leader from 1983 to 1987 until his assassination, which is why Traoré, may God's protection be with you. Sankara, so he changed the name to Burkina Faso, which means the land of upright people. Love it. He was a feminist, okay? His security crew, whole bunch of baddies on motorcycles. He outlawed female circ or FGM. He outlawed polygamy, and he outlawed forced marriage. One of his, like, in my opinion, greatest accomplishments was he had a huge vaccine program. The infant mortality rate was like 20%. It was very high. And it dropped 6% during his presidency because he had mass programs getting people and kids vaccinated for things like polio, measles, meningitis. Preventable shit, right? And guess what? It worked. So the infant mortality rate dropped a lot, 6% during his presidency. The country had been experiencing deforestation, so he planted 10 million trees. Yeah. He also established work programs to have like over 20% of the nation's land irrigated. And he made it a thing that all of the government vehicles, at this point, they were Mercedes. He said, girl, nah, that's crazy. And he got them like a whole bunch of damn hoopties. I don't know what actually kind of car, but he was like, why are we trying to flaunt all kind of wealth when our people, the people of this nation, need help? We're not going to live all lavish if they're living in squalor. No, we're going to rise up as a whole nation. Very good. He said, also, people in the government, y'all don't need no first class flight. Mama, right economy. Good shit. And what else? Oh, that the government officials are going to wear traditional garb of their country. Garments that are made with Burkinabe cotton and sewn together and crafted by craftsmen of their nation. Stop buying all this, you know, European fucking, no. Very good. So just did a lot of things that really helped the nation and created solidarity amongst the people. And also he didn't want any pictures of himself in any kind of public government office. He was like, no, there are a million me. There's a million Thomas Sankaras. And he said, they can kill revolutionaries, but they cannot kill ideas. Tremendous. Now, there is a young man in charge of Burkina Faso who currently, his name is Ibrahim Traoré. So Sankara was 1983 through 1987. Right now is a guy named Traoré. Perhaps you've been hearing about him. In regards to Ibrahim Traoré, mind your sources if you're gonna look stuff up, because the way they speak of him in his own nation and in his own continent at large. If you go to African news sources, very favorable. Western news sources are like, oh God, whoa, is this about to be a bad thing? Meanwhile, all the people of Africa are like, we love him. So I'm going to go ahead and...
I mean, what's crazy about this is this is a white lady basically telling us that the information out there could be fabricated on purpose. That's basically what she's telling us. It's fabricated. So y'all need to pay attention where you get it from.
Follow their lead, seeing as they're there, you know. Also, here's why the West is pissed. Because Traoré has paid off all of Burkina Faso's debt. The, like, international bank and all kind of funds globally have been like, hey, do you guys need a loan? Do you want anything? Do you need anything? Do you want a loan? And he's like, we're cool. Nope. Don't want your money. Because it's never just a handout, girl. They're never just like, here's some money because we're being nice.
Nope. Selling your soul.
They want something in return. Duh. So, paid off all their debt and was like, no thanks, we don't need your money. Saudi Arabia said, here's a bunch of money so that you can build 200 mosques. He said, no. If you give us that money, we're going to be building schools and hospitals. Not really sure if they're going to get that money or not. But, okay, Traoré. very much continuing Sankara's like health programs. He's gotten a bunch of vehicles to go like mobile clinics, so that way people that are in rural areas or in like I don't want to say like deserted areas, but like remote areas, hard to get to areas, don't worry, we'll come to you. They have like refrigerated trucks and everything so that they can keep the vaccines and continuing this, you know, medical push. Very good. He has built 2 tomato processing plants so that the country can be self-sustaining in terms of food. He has built the country's 2nd cotton processing plant. And, okay, mind you, again, the size of this country is a little bit bigger than the state of Colorado. Or, I don't know where you're from. A little bit bigger than New Zealand. Aotearoa. He procured and distributed 400 tractors, along with other things like motorcycles and other kind of like transport things. Because mind you, they're very much doing shit by hand, and like beasts of burden, like, you know, cows and mules and stuff to help with agricultural work. So he got a fleet of tractors, and they are all free to use to the farmers. And he's also been distributing high quality seeds and fertilizer in order to help agricultural production. He's also said that if a woman gives birth, that's free. She doesn't need to pay for her hospital stay. And here's how I know. Literally all the African leaders are like, strong work, Ibrahim. Very good.
Now, if you do plan on visiting Burkina Faso, you're probably looking at $1,200 round trip out of JFK. That's about what comes up. Now, of course, you know, you're going to have to do your due diligence and check on your credentials, what it's going to take for you to get in the country. I think he allowed all Black people to free citizenship, basically. But like I said, check that stuff and make sure. But here's a little thing on the country, let you know what it's like over there.
Welcome to Burkina Faso. I like it.
Hey, TikTok. Listen, some kind of way I ended up on African Talk, and I'm so good with it, y'all. There is so much happening that has to do with the United States and Africa, Ghana, and what is this, Burkina Faso? Y'all go and look that up. If you don't know what's going on right now, look up the stories on YouTube, follow the information on TikTok, and it will keep leading you down all of the paths that you need to go. But this is something that we as African Americans need to be paying attention to, because this is filled with intrigue, drama, a little bit of, I can't use the word.
I know a lot of people going to come at her in the comments for saying African American, but they forget that's what they put on all the applications in this country. When you go to fill something out, that's what it's listed as.
TikTok, so I'm not going to even say it because I don't want to be flagged, but there's a whole lot encompassed with this particular drama that's going on with the West, the United States, and Africa. And I feel like we are not talking about it enough. It really irritates me that the media is still beating the drums about all this insignificant stuff about Trump's 100 days. We could care less. Like, it really is not going to do anything. The media here act like they're scared of him. So why do we want to hear anything that they have to say about his 100 days? Who cares? You know, we're just going to try to survive this next 4 years. But what we need to be paying attention to is how this administration is reacting with Africa, specifically Ghana and Burkina Faso, because these two countries, specifically Burkina Faso, have decided to take control of their own assets. I mean, like, full control. Cut off everybody at the helm. Nobody is getting control over their gold, their diamonds, their money, nothing. And so, of course, they're now trying to create some kind of problem with the leader of Africa. Like, we don't have our own problem going on over here, but they're trying to create a problem with that leader because they want to create something, because they simply want to be able to control their assets and their minerals. But this young man, this President Ibrahim Traoré, 37 years old, beautiful, tall, dark, handsome, smart, intelligent, with it, know all the tricks of the trade, speaking directly to his people, telling them every day what's going on and why he's not going to bow down. And that right there is why you need to know what's going on. You, with your African American self, need to know what's going on. Traipse right over there to African TikTok. Go down a couple of videos and then you'll start seeing all the other videos that you need to see. Go over to YouTube and watch the full stories. Listen to him talk and you will see what I'm talking about. This is some major stuff. And the fact that the United States is not covering it, you know why they're not covering it? Because this one over here is getting embarrassed. He getting embarrassed on every front. You know, he tried to summon for the African leaders to come and speak to him about the confiscation of land from these other people, right? I guess that's what it was about. But President Traoré was like, yeah, you don't summon me. You don't summon me. I'm not coming to no meeting. Who are you to summon me? As a matter of fact, don't ever send for me again. Yeah, you got to look it up because he about that life. And I love it because you don't hear about it.
That's true.
You know why? Because it was an embarrassment. Another strike against our relationships with other countries. And I love the fact that this young man is using their wealth, that they have this immense amount of wealth. I'm talking about oil, diamonds, gold, everything. And he's using that to better the citizens of his country. For centuries now, Africans have been delving out all of their resources. And then these people are coming in and colonizing right in their own land and not sharing any of the wealth with them. They're working the land and providing the wealth to somebody else. Like, I don't even understand how all that happened. But this young man has stepped in and was like, okay, so since we got to be expelled out of the United States, or since our people can't get green cards, then okay, that's fine. Y'all come back home. We got work for you here. We can use y'all resources here, and then we'll take care of you here, right? But at the same time, Americans, y'all can pack y'all bags and get up out of here too. Oh yeah, the drama is real. It's a whole soap opera with some real live drama to it, and it is so good. It is so good to see our people standing up. It is so good to see Africa standing in its real strength. And this young man is something to listen to. The way he articulates the way he wants to move his country forward, and why he will not submit to the West, and why you can't ask him or command him to do anything. And he's talking to that way to the US and to France. They over it. And we need to know about it because we need to be supporting them. We need to be supporting them by pushing their videos, by pushing their content, and just making sure we're sharing this information, because it's super important that they know that we are team Burkina Faso. I love it, and I am just like, I'm all day into it. Can't wait to study more about it. Can't wait to support. Can't wait to hear more about the movement that is going to make Africa strong and independent. Y'all go check it out, please. I think you're going to be amazed at how great this is for Africa. All right.
You know, when we talk about the African diaspora, we talk about the Blackness and everything around Africa. This has got to be one of the best feel-good stories in a very, very long time. You know, we've been covering the Black Scottish, we've been covering the Black Russians, and all Black people all around the world. And it seems like a lot of us have forgotten where a lot of this originated, and we could still see the colonizations going on and the things going on to the people there. Now, I've always said to myself, you know, as a kid growing up, how does a place that have every natural resource needed to run the world is so poor? Why are the people starving? Why are the people not being able to live off of what their land sold? Their land produced every nutrient there is, and they was never reaping anything from it. And I'm happy that now the youth, you could say youth, he's a little younger than I am, but youth are actually being smart, and they're not tricked by gold and money and power. You know, that's money, power, respect, what you need in life, right? So when you look at what's going on, you have to be happy with things like this. As a Black person, we have dreamt for this stuff. You know, when you look back in history and you read your history, you see what happened and what was still happening up until recently. And listen, I would definitely like to go visit over there. That's like a month, a trip that you're gonna probably stay for like a month. It says roughly it's a round trip ticket is an average for 800 to 900 on average. I guess then this is out of JFK, New York. If you ever been there, let me know down in the comments. Also, I know they passed a homosexual ban in the country. Let me know how you feel about that. I know it's, like I said, I know it's a very touchy subject, and a lot of people feel opposed to it. Even in my country, there's a lot of things that's written on the books, on the laws that's just, it's there. But y'all need to let me know in the comments how y'all feel about the new homosexual ban, as well as all the good. Take from this is that what he has done to change his country around and put his country at the map with no debt, with everything that's going on in the country and in Africa because of Traoré, has been nothing other than blessings and what a lot of people want to see. Now, I'm hoping that he's able to follow through with everything he wants to do, because we know how these other nations meddle inside of Africa when it comes to things like that. They've been doing it for years. They go in, they take out the person that's been there, and they interact or interject someone that's there to take money and go. And what ended up happening is they ended up starving the nation out, and just, but the fact that he went in there and kicked out all of these Western countries, we've seen it happen in South Africa as well, and more African countries. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. This is Peapod Cove Life, and I try to make sure I bring y'all something related to African life, African, Black people, Black life. We all got to be out here helping each other, praying for each other, because if we unite around the world, we become the majority of the people, So I'm going to see y'all in the next one. Y'all have a good day. Peace out.